Hey guys, welcome back to my small engine repair channel, and also a big welcome to my new members. What I want to show you in today's video is what I do to lawn tractor spindles, riding mower spindles before I install them. So what I've got here are two common spindles that are used on a whole bunch of lawn tractors. However, what I'm going to show you in today's video applies to all the machines out there, whether it's homeowner grade or commercial grade. Now, the first thing I do, whether it has a grease fitting or not, is I take the spindle shaft out to have access to the bearings. So I'll just pop this shaft out. You don't want to tap the threads, that's why I've got a nut on there. So I pull the shaft out, keep everything in the same order. And then what I do is I pop the bearings out. To pop the bearings out, I reach in with a pin punch on an angle so that I'm hitting the outer race of the bearing. Then alternate to another side. Now sometimes they go flying like that. And now once I got the bearing in my hand, what I do is I remove one seal from the bearing. I leave one on one side. So with your pick, it's quite easy. You just reach in, pop it out. Now the bearings will come with some grease. However, if you don't have this cover off, over time the grease will be gone from the bearing and your spindle will wear out. Now even if you grease it and there are covers on the bearings, the grease might come in, but I've taken apart a lot of them and there was a bunch of grease but hardly any in the bearings. So now what I do is I remove the covers like this, then I just put the bearings back in. Okay, and now I'll do the same on the other side. There'll be a spacer you want to remove. And again, I will just go in with my pin punch here. And again, I'll remove one seal on one side of the bearing. And I'll reinstall the bearings, but I will put the side without the seal toward the inside of the spindle. And I always tap the bearing in with a brass hammer. Try to tap the outer race. And you can also use a big socket that goes right on the outer race of the bearing to finish it in. And now what I do is grab some wheel bearing grease and put a blob in there. This one does have a grease fitting, so I don't need to put as much in there. So what will happen here with all this grease is as the machine gets used, the grease will work its way in the bearings constantly, so nothing wears out that way. And I'll reinstall the other bearing with the side without the seal toward the inner part of the spindle here, like that. No one's gonna go broke using grease, guys. And now what you gotta do is line up that spacer on the inside to the middle so that you can get this shaft through. Now you can wear gloves when you do this. If you want, it might not be a bad idea. And then I'll just put this back on the spindle here. This is the John Deere spindle. It's got a little spacer up top. Now this spindle will have the proper amount of grease in, even though it's got the grease fitting here. It's just going to penetrate the bearings way better. And on this Craftsman spindle here, it's the same procedure, except this one here does not have a grease fitting. You could install one as well. Just drill the proper hole here, make some threads, and put in your grease fitting. I'll make another video on that later. But again, same idea. Sometimes the bearing comes out with the shaft, which is fine. If it does, just leave it on the shaft. Just go in and remove the bottom seal right here. You don't need to put more grease in the bearing. It will work its way in from what I put in because there is already a bit of grease in the bearing. And this one's coming out easy. I'll just tap it on the inside. There we go. Again, just remove the little cap here. There's no spacer in the middle of this one. So what I'll do here is put the shaft back in. Always use a brass hammer when you're tapping directly on your parts. And now I'm just going to put a big blob in here because this one does not have a grease fitting. That grease is basically going to be in there for life. Now this grease will get warm when you're using the spindle, so will always be runny and get right into the bearings. Now it's messy, but it'll add life to your spindle. And again, do the same thing. You want the seal on the top here. Bearing went in quite easily on this one. I'll just put this back on and just wipe it all up clean here. And my last tip in this video is to put some anti-seize on the bolts that mount it to the deck. So I just grab whatever anti-seize I have. It can be silver, zinc, or copper, doesn't matter. And I use it generously. So by doing this here, if ever I need to remove a spindle, the bolts will come off easily. Normally when you remove these bolts from a spindle, they're seized in here. They often break in there, and then what you got to do is waste your time and heat up all these parts on the spindle here, this, and that, to be able to remove the bolts. So this is cheap, and it'll save you a lot of labor in the next repair. So those are my tips for your lawnmower spindles today. Also, don't forget to put the anti-seize on the bolts, and for the grease, just buy any wheel bearing grease. It's not rocket science here. Any grease will save the bearings in your spindles. Now if the bearings get worn out, you can sometimes just remove the spindle shaft and replace them. But this grease will give these bearings 10 times more life. Thanks for watching, guys. Please comment below and make sure you're subscribed. Have a great day.